It's the last day to vote for your favourite of Series 8 in the BrickLink Designer programme. And that also means it's time for me to give you my predictions, as I do each series, on what the winning 5 will actually be. That's no easy task, as there have been absolutely phenomenal designs put forward this round. And if you've seen any of my other videos from the past couple of weeks, you'll know that I've covered pretty extensively what I feel to be the strongest submissions from many of the different genres. Then again, there are also some other designs which are simply fantastic, which I haven't found the right place in order to feature. Like this one that we have here. Just look at the glorious view of its backside. Love the smoke coming out of it. Or then again, the post office and stagecoach. I haven't covered the Wild West this time round, but it's a really strong submission with a great looking stagecoach. But the point I want to make here is that just before I give you my final 5, the ones that I think are going to stand the best chance of actually being picked, there could well be a set that I haven't picked out over the past couple of weeks, which you think is absolutely fantastic. Maybe it's a new one that we've never seen before, or one that's been rejigged like this one. Reduced down now massively in piece count to just over 1,000 pieces, making it a very attractive and strong proposition, and exactly the type of thing that LEGO could likely choose. Either way, get commenting. Let me know in the comments, do you agree with the picks that I've made, both for my finalists that I'll cover in a couple of minutes, and in the designs that I've featured as a whole in these videos from the past couple of weeks? Or is there a bit of a gem that you think I've missed? Get commenting down below, let me know what you've been supporting. And if you are watching this Friday the 16th of May as I release it, make sure to go and vote for your favourite if you haven't already. I'll put the link in the description down below. It's your last chance to do so. But we begin here with the Capsule Tower Hotel. Now, I'll be honest straight up, this isn't going to be one of my predictive 5 winners, but as usual in this video, I'm going to call out the ones that I think could actually make it. I will commit, as I always do, to the final 5 at the end, but I kind of reserve the right to say that, this is a close runner-up because it's a pretty cool build and one that I haven't featured in the other videos that we've looked at so far. It does have a large piece count, which also means that you can get a really good array of minifigures, this topping it out pretty much at the 4,000 piece mark. And what an interestingly and intricately designed building it is. I really like the uniqueness of all the shaping and the fact that you can see into each of the capsules to be grabbing a little glimpse of all the different rooms and therefore the potential for little stories that are going on within each. That is a great touch. Of course, the whole thing has also been modularized as well, so you can take it apart floor by floor. And our fan designer has put some fun little details in here too. I'm not quite sure why the minifig here is quite so scared about what he's about to be eating. Personally, I'd be far more frightened by the green sausage. Unless, of course, that's actually what he's staring across the table at. I haven't seen a green sausage since that questionable adult parody of Marvel's The Hulk. Anyway, I think this is a really cool design, has a great mixture of play and display possibility to it. In fact, the only reason that I didn't cover this in the actual buildings video that I did is because I hadn't seen it. And that is one annoying thing. I comb through all of the submissions when I do these videos, and I'm sure that some of them still don't appear because it's not exactly the sort of design that you could easily overlook. So I'm not sure it's going to get quite as many votes as a couple of the others on here, but I sure do think it's a very strong contender. Now, the next one I want to highlight is this, the Jungle Adventure, one that I definitely had seen before, but didn't really fit in with any of the previous videos that I was doing. But here we have a really awesome looking design. Just look at how cool that plane is, and the hot air balloon's pretty decent as well. I've been saying for ages I want a full-on return to the adventure theme, and well, some of these minifigure submissions are definitely more than a nod and a wink. It sure would be nice to get them, but just look at how brilliantly colourful this set is. If there's ever been a LEGO set that shouts adventure to me, then this sure is it. Now, it comes in at just around the 2,500 piece mark. And that is brilliant because that is the average. Apologies to those who've listened previously and already know this, but for any who haven't, of the 5 winners that are chosen, 2,500 pieces is roughly the average across the 5 sets. Can be a little bit more, can be a little bit less, but that's typically the average that they go for. And yet it's definitely the higher piece counts that are typically more hotly contested. Once you get sort of 3,000 plus, there's a lot of really strong submissions. And in this sort of area, there are less of them. That can make it quite a sweet spot for designers to put something forwards like this that just looks absolutely brilliant. I love the wonderful choice of colour that's going on throughout this. And all the little extra stuff as well. I've obviously just mentioned the plane and the hot air balloon, which do look really great. But then obviously you've got a little boat as well and the little camping section down here too. It's very feature-rich, this design, and then we flip it around and the inside is pretty cool too. So I think this is a fabulous set. You know, there are some which I sort of think to myself, this is probably going to win, but if it did, it's not for me personally. That is not the case here at all. I would absolutely be trying to crowdfund this. It's exactly the sort of set which I adore. I think it sums up so much about Lego, the brilliantly fun play side of it, obviously referencing back to a time when the sets that we were getting were just so brilliant. I feel it's good enough to be an absolute winner. Sadly, I'm not sure that it actually will be. You know, Lego haven't really given the adventure vibe much attention. We did get sort of a return of Johnny Thunder and the Jungle theme, as we know, for the city sets. There's a few more of those which they're doing some stuff with and trialing that are also going to be coming out. I honestly don't feel that we're going to get anything like this on this sort of scale at all, ever, sadly. However, anything even remotely like it, I don't feel it's going to get done through the BrickLink Designer Program. I could be wrong about that. I'd be very pleased if I was wrong about that. Just, it's the vibe that I get. So I doubt that this will make it through. Tremendous design, though. I had to mention it here. And another one, which I think is so cool, is this, the Mad Scientist Laboratory. Just look at it. Very Dr. Frankenstein and his monster, of course. You've got the villagers all trying to storm in on the outside. It's a brilliantly imposing looking building. I love the shaping, the jagged spikes almost running across the rooftops, then the way that all the windows have been done, the nice little features, of course, of the boards having been nailed up in places over the shattered panes of glass, and then the really nice touches of not super colourful foliage, but just fairly muted tones crawling up the sides. That is spot on. And then, of course, our rather dead, gnarled tree here with the owl sitting vigilantly over, where there's a rather mysterious lantern glowing. It's spooky, it's weird, it's wonderful. And it hinges open to reveal a really jam-packed, feature-rich interior, as our villagers manage to burst through and storm on the inside. Up top, we have the mad scientist's lair where he's been conducting his experiments. And it's another one of those builds where all of the sort of big stuff you'd expect is naturally covered really well, but there's also lots of little details. There's a spider lurking around under the floorboards, and also down here, a little rat going for a piece of cheese under there too. So there's nice little extra touches which don't need to be in there. I dare say a lot of fan designers would overlook putting in there, but not so here. I love spending time looking at submissions like this because the longer you take, the more things you spot. And that to me speaks of a fan designer who hasn't just created a brilliant building, but also has put in the time, the care and the attention to really delve in and think about all the little aspects of it. So I love this one. I think it is super. It is big again. 3,786 pieces. That puts it in the real heavy hitter leagues. It's up against some of the big boys, but I feel it holds its own. And it's another that would not only look fantastic on display, you've also got these fun play features, you know, turning the cog there, raising our minifig up so that he's taken out onto the roof where the sort of electric beams are going to come down and transform him into the monster minifig that we see up there. It's a brilliant story. It's a brilliant build. It's been constructed just wonderfully. I feel that it definitely has to be in the running. I mean, it deserves loads of votes. It doesn't really step on any toes particularly, I don't think, in terms of stuff that Lego would be planning and that we know of, etc., and with licensing, so I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do it. Overall, I think it stands a very good chance, but I think that it might just miss out. So here we go. Enough beating around the bush. The 5 that I think most likely to get picked. Well, starting at the small end, I thought that I was going to be going with this, the fish and chips truck. The reason being that it is an incredible design for just over 600 pieces. It's by the same designer who gave us the popcorn wagon from Series 5, which I believe is coming ready for crowdfunding next month. It's so wonderfully vibrant and colourful, I absolutely adore it. And I covered it in the best trains and vehicles video that I did for BrickLink Series 8. I'll link to all of them in the description below in case you're interested and haven't seen them. So I think that this is incredible. And out of all of the small designs, I'll go so far as to say it's my personal favourite. I would really like to see this picked. However, I'm just not sure that Lego and BrickLink are going to go with another food truck related set this time round. It's not your typical food truck, of course. It's beautifully designed, just incredibly done throughout. That's not the point. It's just my gut feeling that despite this undoubtedly getting loads of votes, it's not just the votes that count. The BrickLink team still basically have the final say. and I suspect they'll go in a bit of a different direction. If we think back to Series 7 and the finalists that were chosen there, 3 were very predictable, and 2 extremely left of field. Not the sort of thing that I would have expected to be chosen. So that brings me to this. Having combed through all of the sets, as far as I can see anyway, I like the look of this Second Life of the Tree. This comes in with a little bit of a higher piece count, admittedly, 900 plus pieces. But I really like the story that's being told here. First of all, the design is a little bit, not cartoonish, that's the wrong word, but it's fanciful, isn't it? In the way that our tree trunk has been done here and the branches with the different colours of leaves all going on. But I think this has a pretty good message behind it, and one that LEGO and BrickLink will probably like. The idea of repurposing this tree, which is obviously still alive, but has probably seen better days, and turning it into a cafe. I think that sort of core concept is one that they could easily get on board with. It's not an offensive set in terms of it's not polarising. I doubt very much that it would be many people's absolute favourites, but at the same time, a lot of people would be quite happy to get this. It's very sweet in its design, been nicely thought through. I think the fan design has done a really super job with it. And just thinking about all of the sort of botanical related sets that we have been getting from LEGO, almost too many to be honest, much as I like them, they have been coming a bit thick and fast. And I feel that this would sort of fit in with that quite nicely. It seems to be the mood that they're in currently. So it is very difficult. I actually think that the smaller end of the spectrum in terms of these builds that are being put forward are always the hardest to try and call. But this has a nice character to it. I think the message behind it is good. The design itself is really sweet. On a personal level, I think that something like this is stronger. It's what I would be more interested in buying. But let me know what you think in the comments, because I feel that something like this is probably ticking just about the right boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and lock it in as being my first prediction as a Series 8 finalist or winner. My next pick then is probably not much of a surprise, the Mushroom Haven. This one coming in at 1,500 odd pieces. So next up the scale size-wise. This one really is a bit of a no-brainer. You know, the fan designer has had brilliant success, first of all with the Mushroom House, and then of course the Mushroom Village that was picked. This is going to be up for pre-order in Series 5 next month, and loads of people love it. It's just so colourful, joyful, fanciful, and ultimately different from a lot of stuff that we've had. So having another one, very different in the way that it looks, but of course perfectly fitting in and marrying up with those previous sets, that makes just perfect sense. Now, it's also worth noting here that this has had more comments on it, I believe, than any other set. That isn't something to necessarily go by. Comments do not equal votes, and even votes alone are not enough to necessarily secure a set a place. However, this one, it's kind of obvious. It just makes sense. LEGO have already seen that the first one had success in terms of sales, and they're commercially minded. They want to see stuff that sells. Got that second one coming too, and the demand is there. There is a fan base for this. Loads of people love it. So in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to get the votes. It looks really cool. Fits in brilliantly with those previous sets the fan designer has done, and therefore stands a pretty strong chance of being successful when it comes time for actually selling. You know, the crowdfunding stage. All of that are big ticks in the box for BrickLink and LEGO's eyes. So I would be very surprised if this one doesn't get chosen. I am going to go ahead and lock it into my number 2 position. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments. Now then, this is where things start to get a little bit tricky in trying to predict stuff. The medieval tournament, one that I featured, I believe, in my most recent video, I think makes good sense as an addition to the medieval world as a whole, a bit like the Siege Encampment did. And it comes in just under 2,000 pieces, which makes it really strong in terms of what you're getting, the pricing that it could be versus the actual piece count. And then, of course, there is the slightly smaller version as well, the medieval jousting tournament, 1,226. I actually feel this is a bit too small, especially considering the other two that I've already locked in that I think we're going to see. This doesn't really make sense to me on a piece count basis. Nothing against it as a set. Again, go and watch the other video I did. I think it's a really cool, strong idea, but this kind of makes more sense to me. However, the reason I think that it's complicated is that this only makes sense if they don't go with a bigger castle. Now, it is true, back in Series 4, we had both the Siege Encampment and the medieval seaside market in the same winning 5. I can't see that being repeated at the moment. I think that we would only get something like this if there isn't another castle build in the running. So just bear that in mind. Keep the piece count in mind as well, and we will park that there for the moment. As for my number 3 spot, I feel this is going to be in contention between the 2,300 odd piece wood brick freight depot and the Viking shipyard with 2,980 odd pieces. So a fair size difference between the two, roughly 500 odd pieces all told, and both absolutely brilliant in their own right. You know, our designer, Mind the Brick, has already seen success with the BrickLink Designer program, and rightly so. This is such a wonderful addition. It has beautiful functionality, looks fantastic, would fit in with the world so well. Go and watch my video on the buildings for BrickLink Series 8 if you want to see my sort of full review of this, my detailed thoughts of it. But suffice it to say, I love it. I am a big train fan. I think that this is a very different type of train station that we need and would look fantastic in the world. The flip side of that is I slightly worry that BrickLink Lego might think to themselves, well, they've already done a fair few train stations, and the fact that this is completely different from those might, for some reason, not be fully considered as it should be. So that's my only concern that might go against this. Then you've got the Viking shipyard, which again just looks splendid, but Vikings don't seem to get a huge amount of love from Lego, not since obviously their official set. Are they going to do another one? You know, that could well go against this. But on the plus side, it's just such an incredible looking build. I think it brings the whole Viking world to life, and there's so many details to it that is just absolutely super. You know, I feel very torn between the two. I love the subject matters of both. But in my mind, I do feel that this is the slightly better build, simply because it's going to fit in with other sets that we've had more, and I feel build upon the world as a whole in a much better way than this one does. This is more a fantastic standalone piece, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you then have one which at an even smaller piece count can not only look great on its own, but also fit in with other sets that we've previously had so well and build out your display in that way, that just edges it for me as being that little bit stronger. And I do feel that where this is size-wise really helps it out as well. You know, to my mind, in this arena scale-wise, it is the best submission that we have had. So I'm going to go ahead and lock it in and say that this will be my number 3 pick. Moving up the scale next, though, we come to one that is just under the 3,200 piece mark, and it is, of course, the White Shark Imperial's Prison. You know, pirates have been left out for quite a few series now in terms of actual playable sets, and here we have one that just is so incredible. It would fit in with the other official Lego sets that we've had, be it from Lego Ideas or the BrickLink Designer program, just so beautifully. I love every aspect of how it looks, and it is so clever. I mean, so clever in the way that it's been put together. Really ingenious with how the prison goes in and out, etc. Again, if you want a detailed look at this, and you absolutely should, take a look at the Pirates video that I did, because it is such a wonderful set. Brilliant for both play and display. And I feel that this has to be chosen, because if it isn't, then I feel that Pirates truly is dead and that Lego just doesn't care about them anymore. Because yes, we had the Imperial flagship Fortuna in the last series, but that was of course a ship. It wasn't an actual set. So in terms of land-based pirate sets, we haven't had one in ages. One that looks this fantastic with so many play features and brilliant intricacy in the way that it's designed, and that fits in so well with ones that we've had in the past. If they then don't pick this, I just don't see anywhere for the theme to go going forwards, unfortunately. And seeing as how Pirates is my personal favourite theme overall, followed very closely by Castle admittedly, but overall it is my favourite, that would be such a huge shame. So maybe I'm a little bit biased in that respect, but I just feel that this is in so many ways the cleverest and most all-round winning design that I've seen in such a long time that I simply can't compute it not being chosen. And if it isn't, then I really have to question the entire way that the BDP program is being run. So that brings us on to the final pick, and it's between two sets. The first is this, the Dustmark Key. Topping it out size-wise with 4,000 pieces, it is a fantastic looking castle. Again, something that has a brilliant play and display functionality to it. I love that the location and the faction is different. It really opens out the whole medieval world in such a brilliant regard, and I think would be an incredible addition to the castles that we've been getting from the BrickLink Designer program. In fact, it would actually be my favourite to date. I think it is so strong and an absolutely incredible design. But I am still concerned that they're not going to choose a castle this round. You know, they didn't for Series 7. They went with the different scale alchemist shop from the medieval, which, to be fair, I did predict. I said that they would choose it, and they did. And part of me then thinks, well, surely we must be getting a castle this time round. And, you know, in all likelihood, we probably are. But there's just something, a gut feeling that I can't really explain. And I know that's not very helpful when it comes to doing these videos, but unfortunately, sometimes I can't explain everything. It is just a gut feel. I don't think that we're going to be getting a castle this round. If we do, it's this one. It just hands down makes sense. I featured some amazing castles in the castle video that I did, but I do think that this one is the best out of them. It just makes the most sense. But I suspect that we're not going to get one. And if that is the case, then as I referenced earlier, it makes things a little bit more complicated, because if they do give us sort of a smaller medieval style set like this, much lower down the piece count, that could then change the other ones that I've picked as winners. But it's just the feeling that I get. So I so want to say that this is going to get chosen. I think it stands a fantastic chance of being so. However, I'm not going to lock it in, because I'm going to say that they're going to go in a different direction. And instead, we're going to get this, Bricksterdam. Coming in at nearly 3,800 pieces. It is another incredible building. Several of them, in fact, wonderfully ramshackled together, slightly off-kilter in the way that they're tilted around, and a fantastic blend of muted colours and so much going on. I think it's another one that will do really well from a voting point of view. It's a great build, and exactly the sort of thing that I can see them giving the thumbs up to. But there we go. Those are my thoughts. There are some which I think could very well make it, that are brilliant in the way that they've been designed, and that I would certainly be definitely trying to crowdfund if they were chosen as winners. But the ones that I think will be picked are the Second Life of the Tree, the Mushroom Haven, the Wood Brick Freight Depot, the White Shark Imperial's Prison, and Bricksterdam. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time round.